Hello. In class, in section 3.4, I did not complete example 3 or example 4b, so I would like to do that here. Okay, for example 3 at the top, we want to prove that secant, the derivative of secant is secant tangent. So first let's remember how we rewrite secant. We can write that as 1 over cosine. And if we take a look at 1 over cosine, that is still a fraction with a function on the top and a function in the denominator. So from here, I'm going to use my quotient rule. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to look at that more closely. And as we keep going, now, from here, cosine squared can be written as cosine times cosine. So I'm going to split this fraction up a bit. Again, pause the video at any time when you have to. Please recall, tangent is the same as sine over cosine. So from here, I'm going to change that first fraction into tangent. Also recall, 1 over cosine is the same as secant. So we have just shown that the derivative of secant is secant tangent. Please come on down to example 4. We did A in class, but let us take a look at example B. This can be a bit lengthy. What I'm going to do here for a moment is, just to make this problem a little bit easier at the moment, I'm going to treat x squared sine x as one function. And I'm going to treat tangent of x as another function. So remember in class I was saying, okay, when we want to find a product of two functions, we can use the product rule. Well, for the moment, I'm going to let f be x squared sine x and g be tangent x. And those are just random functions I threw out there. So using our product rule, we take our original function and write it as is, but then we have to take the derivative of the second function, which is tangent. And the derivative of tangent, if you look at your box with all the tangent derivatives, is secant squared. Yes? And then the second part is you take your second function and write it down, but then you take the derivative of your first function. Now, be careful here, because this, one more time, is the product rule. So in red, let us go ahead. We have x squared times the derivative of sine x, which is cosine x, and then we leave the second part of the function alone and take the derivative of the first part. Do you see how there's two functions within there? All right, very good. Let's keep on going. Then we get to this step. Mostly all I did here was distribute the tangent to both of these terms here. And here is our next step. Please notice these are just the same right here. I pulled the x squared to the front of this problem, and tangent I rewrote as sine over cosine. Then for this last part right here, all I did was bring the 2x out in front. And all I did in this step here was, if you take a look at this middle term here, my cosines are going to cancel. Okay, which is why I ended up with this as my middle term. Now, if you look carefully, each of these terms have a sign inside of it, so I'm just going to factor out a sin x. Or forgive me, rather, I'm factoring out an x and a sin x. And there is my answer. Okay, that was number 4, letter B, from section 2.4. I hope you found it helpful.